So Apple's March event isn't that far away, and we're really excited to see what Apple are going to bring us in the first half of 2022. We're hearing rumours that Apple are changing up a product a little bit, what I want to talk about, but the main thing is what I want to talk about today is that March-April event that is happening in a couple of months' time, and what we're expecting to see actually at that event. What new Apple products are we going to see in the first half of 2022? Well, let's get started. Hi, it's Matt here. So that's right, in March time or possibly in early April time, we're going to be getting an Apple event. And at this Apple event, we're going to see lots of new Apple products being launched. Now, in previous years, normally Apple do this event around about kind of March time, but there has been the odd occasion where it has been in April. So for example, last year in 2021, the actual kind of spring-loaded event that came about in April time. And the main reason behind that is because of that chipset shortage that we have right now. And we did have it back then. It was actually far worse back then. And in fact, we actually saw the consequences because of that. So for example, the likes of the new iMac that was introduced, that 24-inch iMac, and also the iPad Pro were actually delayed and launched around about a month later after the actual Apple event. And in fact, still after day one of the launch of the event or the pre-ordering of those iPads and those iMacs, it took weeks until you could possibly get your hands on them. So a lot of people who, for example, ordered themselves a brand new kind of iPad Pro, let's say around the end of April time, after about 2 or 3 days after you could pre-order it, a lot of those people weren't expecting to get their iPads in their hands to the end of July time. In some cases, it was absolutely crazy. But we believe that this year, in 2022, that Apple have got more of a handle on it. In fact, the likes of Mark Gurman has turned around and actually said that there's going to be an event probably coming in March or April time. And personally, I do think it will be in March time, because if we look at the end of 2021, Apple got a handle on their grip of their kind of product releases again. So we actually saw an iPhone in the traditional month of September being announced and launched, where in 2020 we didn't. And then the same thing as well with the Macs. We actually got the launch of them, those new MacBook Pros. They came out in October time, where again in previous years in 2020 we didn't get the announcement till kind of mid sort of November time, and it came out right at the end of November. And again, that was all to do that kind of chipset shortage out there. But you can see that Apple kind of corrected at the end of 2021. They had more of a handle on it. And I believe this is going to be the case now in early 2022, that the event is probably most likely going to be in March time. But you know, I could be wrong, and it could fall into April time. So I will put my hand up there that I could be wrong there. But my bets are on kind of March time, mid kind of March to end March sort of time. But you're probably wondering, well, what products are we going to see actually at this event? Well, one item or one product that I think we're definitely going to see, and that is going to be the brand new iPad Air. Now, the iPad Air is the only product that didn't get a refurb, or didn't get refreshed in 2021. All other iPads all got a massive refresh in 2021, just the iPad Air didn't. And I believe that the actual refresh with the iPad Air, we are likely going to see center stage, and also there's the possibility that we might actually get 5G capability inside the iPad Air as well. It's most likely it's going to come with that A15 chipset that was introduced with the iPhone 13s and also put inside the iPad mini the end of 2021. And there's also a rumor going around, there's a possibility that we might actually get dual cameras on the rear of the iPad Air, and those lenses will basically be identical to the normal iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 mini. There'd be no LiDAR or anything like that, but we might also get a quad LED flash as well slapped on the back. So definitely we're expecting to see that in that event in March or April time. Another product that we're most likely going to see, and this has been a long time coming, we were hoping this was going to come the end of 2021, but it didn't, and that is the higher spec Mac Mini. So if any of you know out there, if you go onto Apple's website, as you can see right here, Apple still sell the M1 chipset Mac Mini, rightfully so, but they still sell the higher tier Intel Mac Mini, and this needs to be replaced by the kind of more powered up M1 Pro and the M1 Max chipsets put inside a Mac Mini device. Now, we did have this very similar situation around this time last year, where we had, for example, an M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch, and Apple was still selling the higher end Intel chipset MacBook Pro 13-inch, and as you know, at the end of 2021, this got completely changed, those higher tier Intel ones, and they got replaced with the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. So we're expecting exactly the same on the Mac Mini here. year. Now with that Mac Mini, there's been lots of rumours going around that we're going to actually get a full-on redesign, because if you've actually opened up the current Mac Mini design, what's been around now for about a good 10 years or so, you can actually see that the actual M1 chipset doesn't actually take up a lot of space inside it, especially if you've seen, for example, the likes of, say, a MacBook Air and how thin that is inside it. You know, it's really, really silly that we've got such a kind of bulky design now, even though it's still quite small, the Mac Mini, to have that chip inside it. So for the M1 Max and the M1 Pro, we're expecting a bit more of a smaller design for this, and you know, like I said, it's about time the Mac Mini got some love and had a brand new design, so we're really looking forward to that. You're probably going to get very similar kind of specs to what we've had with the 14 and the 16-inch MacBook Pro, in the likes of the same amount of RAM options, the same amount of cores, so some cores might be binned on the GPU and the CPU, especially on the Pro models compared to the Macs, but all those kind of options will probably be available. Now for a lot of developers out there and creators out there who actually use a desktop machine, this is probably going to be the key machine to buy, because it's going to have so many ports on the back of it, and the amount of value per money and the amount of processing power that you get inside it is going to be absolutely incredible. So we're really, really looking forward to seeing that at this Apple event in March, April time. Something else that we'll be seeing in 2022, and it won't probably be at this Apple event, it's more likely it's going to be on this channel, and that is for the giveaway that I am doing right now. And it is for this. It is for an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and it's in the silver white colour, and it's a 256GB model. And I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky subscriber when we get over 350,000 subscribers. And it is an international giveaway as well. And all I want to know from you guys is to write down in the comments below what Apple gear or what technology gear you're planning to buy in 2022. Put that in the comments below of this video, and also at the same time as well, if you're brand new here, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because when we get over those 350,000 subscribers when I'm giving this away, I'm going to be creating a video of who the winner is, and you don't want to miss out on that notification of that video. Also, I just want to quickly mention, putting down the iPhone here, that there are a lot of scammers and there's a lot of spammers out there on YouTube at the moment who are claiming that you have won a prize. And a lot of people are even using, say, my profile picture out there. And they're also saying to WhatsApp you, this is all fake, they're all scammers, they're all spammers, ignore them. Like I said to you guys, I'll be announcing the winner of this iPhone 13 Pro Max when we get over 350,000 subscribers, and I'll be making a video about it. So, putting that down, let's talk about then what else we're probably going to be seeing at the March event in 2022. Well, I just talked about the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chipset. Well, this chipset is going to be going into another model, and this is something what Apple look like they're going to be changing up a bit in 2022. Now, in previous years, we've had iMacs. We've had a smaller iMac and we've had a larger iMac, and they're also known as the 21.5-inch iMac and the 27-inch iMac. But then last year we got the introduction of the 24.5-inch iMac. Now, most likely what we're going to probably see in 2022, and rightfully so, being that we've got a Pro and a Max chipset, the new 27-inch iMac is probably going to be called the iMac Pro. Now, we have had an iMac Pro before, and this got launched in 2017, and it was released out there for about 3 or 4 years, and Apple discontinued it. It makes sense, to be deadly honest, with the likes of that we have, say, for example, an iPad Pro, we have iPhone Pros, that we also get an iMac Pro. There's also the possibility of that Mac Mini I just talked about to be called the Mac Mini Pro, but who knows? But let's stick with the iMac for the moment. But for the iMac, it's probably going to be a change there. We're going to have the iMac Pro with the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chipset. Now, one thing a lot of people have been talking about is that desktops generally, in compared to the laptops or the MacBooks in previous years with Intel chipsets, have normally been more powerful than their counterpart MacBook. And a lot of people out there, some people have been leaking and rumoring that there's a possibility that you might get dual M1 Pro or dual M1 Max chipsets inside the actual brand new 27-inch iMac. I'm not too sure about this. There is a possibility that could happen, and you know, it makes sense for it. A lot of people have shown diagrams out there that the actual chipsets and how they've been made have actually been designed to work this way, that you could kind of just stack them up behind the actual iMac inside of the chin design. And by the way, talk about design, the design looks like it will be having a chin, I'm afraid, but I'll talk about that in a second. But going back to actual horsepower, there is a possibility for this. But overall, at least what we'll definitely be getting is an M1 Pro, very similar setup to what we have inside the MacBook Pro, and the same with the M1 Max, where you have the same amount of cores and also bin cord options, same amount of RAM options, same again with storage. For the actual design, like I just mentioned there, unfortunately it does look like we'll probably get a chin design again. And the main reason behind this, that chin will actually house the main logic board, but will have your kind of M1 Pro and your M1 Max inside it, and also the speakers as well. Now, what has been circling around, it's very unlikely that we're probably actually going to get those colourful options that we had with the 24-inch iMac. If you love it or you hate those colours, it's more likely we're going to get kind of the Pro colours again. So this is the likelihood of a space grey, a silver, we might also get the gold. We might even get like a rose gold as well. You never know. But we're probably not going to be getting the likes of those blue, those greens, those reds, those oranges, all those purples. We're not going to probably get that on this Pro iMac that comes out or gets announced at the March event. Now, there is one more product that I do want to talk about that Apple will probably announce at the March event, but there are some other products circling around that we're expecting in 2022. First of all, that is the iPhone 14 range. It's very unlikely we will see this at this Apple event, because normally when we get a brand new kind of number range of iPhone teens or the S's, like the likes of, say, a 6S or I don't know, the XS or the 10S, normally we get them around about sort of September, October times. It's very, very unlikely that we'll see a brand new iPhone in that sense. Also at the same time as well, the Mac Pro. Now, a lot of sort of rumours have been circling around that we'll probably actually get the replacement of the Mac Pro with Apple Silicon chipset inside it, either at WWDC or we might see him right at the beginning of kind of full time. So we might see it around September, October time where Apple actually put Apple Silicon into the Mac Pro. My bet is on WWDC because it just makes sense in my head, because Apple promised that they would do the kind of full Apple Silicon conversion to all of their products by the end of 2022, or in fact by kind of full 2022. And to be honest, apart from that Mac Mini and the iMac that I just talked about, the Mac Pro is the last one to be converted to not have Intel chipsets inside it, but in fact to have Apple Silicon inside it. And I think that will be coming at WWDC. The same with the iPad as well, the iPad Pro. I believe we won't see a new iPad Pro to at least the end half of this year, maybe even into 2023. And the main reason behind that is because it will need that M2 chipset. I personally don't believe we'll see M2 introduced in this March event, because we've got the likes of the M1 Pro and the M1 Max to be rolled out to other Apple devices like the iMac and the Mac Mini, what I just talked about. So for Apple to talk about both those chipsets in one kind of event like that, it's very, very strange for them to do that. I don't think it's going to happen. So the likes of that, and going along with that, the MacBook Air, I don't think we'll also see that till the second half of this year with that M2 chipset. And I do believe that the MacBook Air will be one of the first devices to get the M2 chipset inside it. But that other device I want to talk about that Apple are most likely to introduce in March is the brand new iPhone SE. Now, there's began lots of leaks and rumours spreading around of what this new iPhone SE will look like. Well, one of the main things that people have been talking about is saying there's actually going to be no changes whatsoever with the overall design. It will have that same design as the iPhone 8 or the iPhone SE second generation that we got back in 2020. And to me, that is a bit of a downer, especially with the upgrades that Apple want to do inside this iPhone. The major upgrade that Apple want to do inside this iPhone is bring 5G capability, and with that they'll be bringing an A15 chipset inside it. Now, currently the iPhone SE 2020 model does actually have an A13 chipset inside. It was a very, very good chipset. But with the A15 chipset, it actually does use slightly more power than an A13. Then on top of that as well, the 5G modem that Apple uses from Qualcomm inside it will actually drain even more power. And if you've been looking at battery test, drain tests all over the internet, then you'll know that out of all the iPhone range, the battery that loses, well, the iPhone that loses its battery the quickest, even with just 4G, is the iPhone SE with that A13 chipset inside it. So to put the A15, what uses a tiny bit more power, and then 5G as well inside the same iPhone. And by the way, the battery inside it won't get any bigger because there's no space to put it in because it's the same design. We're probably actually going to get a worse battery life in this iPhone SE than what we got with the current 2020 iPhone SE, and I think that's a real shame. I think Apple has missed a trick there. Now, there has been other leaks and rumours out there that in fact this isn't true at all. What Apple are actually using is the iPhone XR design, or the XR design, or even the iPhone 11 design, and with that they'll be putting an A15 and 5G capability. And I'm really hoping for this, because this would be absolutely amazing. The only one downer on this, and the only one thing that makes me go, maybe Apple won't do this, is the actual screen size. So right now, for example, you can get yourself a 6.1 inch iPhone right now with the iPhone 13, the iPhone 12, and to introduce another iPhone again to have a 6.1-inch display, and that be the budget smaller iPhone, it just doesn't really fully make sense. So I don't know what Apple's game is here. But the main thing that we do know is that a brand new iPhone SE is coming at this March event. Well guys, that is all of the devices that we're expecting to see or not expecting to see at this Apple event in 2022. What do you think? Are there any of those products that you're most likely to buy? Let me know in the comments below. Also at the same time as well, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button, and also at the same time as well, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, followed by the notification bell. Until next time guys, I will see you really soon. Bye bye.